The cost of living is rising. So here at Citizens Advice South Lancashire, we wanted to release some videos talking about some ideas we have on ways that you could maximise your income and reduce your costs. In this video, we are going to focus particularly on housing costs. Housing costs can cover quite a few things. It can include rent, council tax, energy costs, water bills, and other utilities such as line rental, TV licensing. But today we are going to focus on rent and council tax. One of the first things you should do is make sure that you are claiming all the housing related benefits that you are eligible to claim for. There are two main benefits when it comes to housing related costs purely to do with rent. There's housing benefit and there's universal credit housing element. Housing benefit is a legacy benefit in the sense that it was what was normally paid to people as a benefit before universal credit, and it was usually funded by the local council. Universal credit housing element is kind of what says on the tin. It's the housing element of universal credit. The amount you would get under housing element for universal credit depends on your household setup, as they have to consider the number of bedrooms that you need and then allocate you the right amount of local housing allowance. When looking at the number of bedrooms that you need for your household, they will look at the age of the people in the household, the number of people in the household, and their gender. So for example, if you are living as a couple and you have a 8-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl living with you, then you would be entitled to the 3-bedroom rate, and that will be added onto your universal credit claim. What is important to note, however, is that they will not give you a housing element that is greater than your rent, and they will not give you a housing element if you are living in a property that is bigger than you need. So for example, if you have a 3-bedroom need because you're a couple with an 8-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl, but you are living in a 5-bedroom property, the maximum local housing allowance you get would still be a 3-bedroom rate, regardless of you living in a bigger property. Therefore, any difference between your local housing allowance and your rental price have to be covered by you. Similarly, if you are living in a 3-bedroom property and the rent is below the local housing allowance, which is highly unlikely, as this is why the local housing allowance is adjusted year on year, you would only receive the amount needed to pay the rent in your property. You would not get extra money that goes beyond your rent. This is at its most basic level. There are things that have to be considered when you're applying for universal credit, such as savings, the amount you earn from work, whether there are any other benefits that you are in receipt of that would affect how much you're able to claim. Therefore, if you are trying to decide whether you need to make a claim for universal credit or whether you want to check if you're receiving all that you should, I strongly suggest looking at the website entitled2.co.uk and doing a quick benefit check. It's essentially a calculator that allows you to put in all your information and it will calculate how much universal credit you should be in receipt of. It's not 100% accurate purely because it is based on how accurately you input the information, but you can always contact Citizens Advice on Advice Line if you need support or if you want a benefit check. So housing benefit and universal credit housing element cover your rent, and they are a good way if you are struggling to pay it from your own private funds. However, you can also look at getting discounts or reductions on your council tax. There are a couple ways in which you can be entitled to a discount or reduction, depending on your household setup or your income. The common one would be single person's discount if you are living as a single adult in a self-contained property. However, you could also look at applying for a council tax reduction if you're in a low income, or a reduction if you have people with disabilities living in your property. There is a lot of information on our website about the different types of discounts and reductions you could be entitled to, so please click the link below to read more about this. So if you've claimed all the benefits you're entitled to, and you've checked that you can get all the discounts and reductions you're entitled to for council tax, but you're still struggling to make ends meet at the end of the month for your housing costs, then you might want to apply for discretionary housing payments, or DHP. DHP is a pot of money that each council receives, and the purpose of it is to help people who are struggling to meet their housing costs despite receiving all the benefits they're entitled to. It is, as it says on the tin, in the sense that it is discretionary. So there is no set, defined criteria that you must meet in order to be eligible for it or to receive it. What the councils will look at is your budget and how much money you have coming in, how much money you have going out, and what you need the DHP to cover. In most cases, it's to cover a difference between their housing benefit or universal credit housing element rate and the cost of their rent, or there are other housing costs that just cannot be met by their benefits. DHP is a really good short-term measure if you are struggling to meet your housing costs and do not want to get into arrears. However, DHP is not a long-term solution. You can apply for DHP as many times as is needed, because there can be multiple changes in your circumstances, which means that you are unable to meet your housing costs. But while you are in receipt of DHP, it can be good to have support looking at your budget or at your income and expenditures with a member of Citizens Advice, or by looking at our budgeting tool on our website to see if there is anything that can be done to help reduce your costs, so that once DHP has finished, you are able to manage. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. All the links mentioned can be found in the description box above or in the comment section below. If you want to contact Citizen Advice South Lincolnshire, our contact details are on the screen. In the next video, we'll be discussing energy costs.